You need to try and pick off the units as look at the shields on the mark.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I am Pain User.
And I am HD StarCraft.
And we have Game 2 for you guys between Mao's Mana, who is spawning as our green Protoss at the 9 o'clock position. And we have ATN DarKFoRcE spawning in the blue trunks at the 3 o'clock position. Hope you guys are ready for this. Game 1 was awesome. What an epic game on DarKFoRcE Plateau. DarKFoRcE giving up a tremendous advantage, somehow allowing Mana to crawl his way back into the game, and Mana ends up taking Game 1 in an epic fashion. I mean, he was so far behind at one point in that game. DarKFoRcE, a little bit upset about the map pool at the end of that game. Voicing his concerns.
Well, he was stating his upset over the fact that on that version of DarKFoRcE Plateau, you are able to break the rocks in your main and go into that little side 12 or 6 o'clock expansion. And when you're a Zerg against a Protoss player, I can understand the frustration, because when a Protoss does that and they've got cannons on both sides, it becomes very difficult to attack on either corridor. So
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And it also allows the Protoss to focus all of his efforts across the top of the map.
On 3 base.
And DarKFoRcE might have made a little bit of a mistake taking his 4th expansion at the top, 10, 11 o'clock position, the opposite main of his main. And taking that allowed Mana to come across the top of the map and inflict a ton of damage, ultimately killing that expansion twice over. So, those positions and the old version, especially since people haven't been playing the old version too much lately. But, at the end of the day, you have to have a stable map pool that everyone's comfortable with. And back when the maps were chosen, that was the map of choice, and it was the most balanced. So
yeah, well, that's the thing about maps, man. They're constantly changing. By the way, did you know that Blizzard just released the new map pools for
I did indeed.
Season 3?
I'm pretty excited.
Pretty awesome, man.
Kerrigan's Wrath looked pretty cool. Need to check it out. But we do have a cybernetics core going down for Mana. It looks like he is going to start to wall off at the front. And what kind of tech do we have out of DarKFoRcE? DarKFoRcE opening up with speed immediately this game, pulling everything off of gas. He also has a queen and 4 Zerglings on the way. So going to get those speedlings out real quick. And that will enable him to take his natural. It will not get pylon blocked. So he's going to be able to safely take that natural, and Mana trying to get in there with a scouting probe, and it looks like he is going to be able to do that. He might try and drop a pylon here.
Doesn't really matter even if he gets the pylon up, because with 4 Zerglings and a drone, you can power it down before it warps out pretty easily. And I like this build that Zerg players do nowadays against Protoss, opting to go with the gas and pool and getting the Zerglings out, because it really lets you not have to worry about pylons or cannon shenanigans, which we like to call canigans. So the Zerg is in a kind of a decent spot, because not only do they get their hatchery down safely, but they also get map control with these speedlings. And of course, on this map, Mana not gonna try to go for any crazy Nexus first or anything like that. Although oftentimes you will see Protoss players kind of, once they grab this natural, position their buildings like that and just kind of wall things off. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to go with some sort of a possible 3-gate sentry expand here. He might actually just drop the Nexus immediately on the low ground, going with a 1-gate expand here. This is just a little bit risky. It gives DarKFoRcE an opportunity to do some pretty aggressive speedling or speedling roach all in. I don't know if he knows that that's a 1-gate expand just yet. He's only scouted the 1 gateway, but he must assume that there is 1, possibly 2 more. It looks like he is coming in with that Overlord from the southeast, however, and that may be able to sniff out that there is only 1 gateway, and if he responds to that with an aggressive all-in, I can see him doing a lot of damage here.
Yeah, if he didn't know already by just looking at the game timer and see a Nexus go down at the 5-minute mark and didn't know that it was a 1-gate expand, this what do we call the Zeppelin will come in here and figure things out for him very shortly, and he's going to see, okay, nothing inside the main. Now I have the option, like you said, to do the Roachling all-in, which is becoming wildly popular these days against players, but it doesn't look like he's going to do it.
What's wrong with Overlord?
I don't know.
You just don't
It's
like
just
it?
so boring, man.
Zeppelins.
Yeah.
You should call them dirigibles.
Dirigibles.
That's just like a random word for Zeppelin. It
We'll
means the
call it-
exact same thing.
We'll call it the dirigible from now on. I can't even pronounce that right.
It's all good. I don't think a lot of people even have any idea what that word means. Oh, and we do have several sentries going to hold these lings off at the front, not using any force fields, so
Nope.
he is saving all of that energy, and he does get the 3 warp gates up, and it looks like he has executed this 1 gate FE relatively safely here.
Yeah, well, the thing is, DarKFoRcE has gone for the third hatchery, and he did this in the last game when he saw the Protoss going for that early Nexus, and he wants to play a macro game. Now, the thing is, on the last map, maybe not the best position to play a macro game against a Protoss just because of the map. But on this map, I think it is. I think with the spawn positions and the way this the way this matchup plays out, I think a macro game against a Protoss is the way you want to go. So I agree with DarKFoRcE's idea here, and he's even getting just 1 spine crawler just in case something weird happens, because we all know Protosses love to hit that random timing when you least expect it and a bunch of units show up at your door.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They will usually bring a probe along with them on that trip and build pylons along the way, leaving a little cookie crumb trail back to their base. They can just continue to warp in units as they come. Can be relatively annoying for Zerg players because it's just so difficult to know exactly when that's going to happen.
Yep.
And once it does happen, you're just scrambling to make units, trying to make last minute preparations, and then boom, you get hit like a tidal wave with a ton of gateway units. And it looks like he is going back to that 2 Void Ray style that we saw in the previous game. He might be able to do some damage here. He does have 1 Void Ray headed over to the 3rd right now. It looks like he's going to clear out these Xel'Naga towers first, get rid of a little bit of that scouting information, and then probably head down to the 3rd.
It's just being wise and diligent, getting those Zerglings out of the way so you can take the towers later or have better access across the middle of the map. This Void Ray isn't going to be intended to kill anything off. It's just here to float Overlords and pick them off, or dirigibles, shall we say. DarKFoRcE is really responding with a lot of defenses, though. He's invested heavily into Spore Crawlers. Maybe a little bit of an overinvestment, but it's always good to be safe and on the safe side. He's also got 7 Hydralisks on the way here, so he's once again going to be going with that Hydra build, but this time around, he's not going to be facing off against a bunch of Blinkstalkers, so I don't know how effective those Hydras are going to be.
Yeah, he will not be facing off against those Blinkstalkers. 2nd Void Ray going directly into the main, actually running from that Queen on the initial, going to go ahead and join up with his buddy. And now that they're feeling a little more confident, going to head into the main, but we do have a single Hydra popping out, taking 2 quick shots, and then heading back over to his buddies at the natural. So they will be able to ward off those Void Rays. Void Ray's not going to accomplish anything except retain quite a bit of map control. He is going to be able to hold those Xel'Nagas and make sure no Lings are able to hold on to those.
Yeah.
But we do have Lings at the expansions for Mana, so he is going to know about the possible 3rd and 4th base timings. Mana just heading over there now to clear these out.
Speaking of units that kind of, you've seen all the time and are kind of bored of the Overlord and calling it a dirigible, have you seen the new Xel'Naga tower in the GSL?
No, I haven't actually.
It's like a gateway.
Oh, really?
It's a gateway that becomes a warp gate when you touch it.
That's kind of cool.
Random fact of the day as we cast.
It's a little bit bigger.
It's a little bit smaller. It's a mini gateway.
Oh, it's a mini gateway.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed. All right, Zergling comes in here. It's going to be able to scout the 3rd Nexus and not able to kill the probe. But the information gleaned by that 25 mineral Zergling is worth probably a lot more. So DarKFoRcE now knows he can opt to go for the 4th, or he can strike down this Nexus with all of his might. And we'll see what he decides to do.
I don't know if he has an attack timing window that he can hit just yet. Oh, and he might be able to prevent this gold from going up. He does have 2 Void Rays. Going to try and get that before it increases in hit points. Both Void Rays charged up, forces the cancel, and this Overseer going to reveal that Observer. Observer forced to hightail it out of there, and he will escape with both of his Void Rays. So able to delay that gold by just a tad, but really not that big of a deal at all. It had just recently been dropped. We do have weapons on the way for Mana. He is starting to add Colossus into the mix now, actually having quite the small gateway army, and it looks like DarKFoRcE is gearing up for another one of those Doom drops as we saw in Game 1. It's going to be much more difficult for Mana to hold this off without all those Blink Stalkers that he was working with in Game 1. He went straight up to 6-gate Blink Stalker in Game 1, and in this game, I mean, his gateway army isn't even close to the size of the previous game.
In fact, if we look at that army tab, it's 182 to 131 right now. Really a big differential in that tab. And DarKFoRcE is gearing up here for, like you said, that Doom drop, although he's bringing in a lot more Overlords than he actually has filled. So 4 of those are filled with units. The others are just decoys, so to say. Maybe going to be a diversion here to pull the main army into the main while he attacks the side door. But the side door has been blocked off with gateways, and DarKFoRcE here is going to try to hit a 2-way timing attack here, but he's going to be denied at the main. And the front door, I don't know if what he's going to be able to do. Maybe cancel the 3 gateways, but that may be about it because the forces for Mana are quickly rerouting towards that 3rd expansion.
And oh my goodness, those gateways helping out so much at the 3rd, just delaying the Zerg army by enough to get in there, get some force fields down. Just now bringing in the Colossus and some more reinforcements, but this drop in the main is going to go off. However, DarKFoRcE losing everything. Ooh, 2 Overlords going down, one of which was full, but losing his entire army at the 3rd is DarKFoRcE. Supply just plummeting right now, and this is again what we saw in Game 1. DarKFoRcE with a huge lead, and then just squandering it all with drops that get countered perfectly, and now supplies are at 138 to 115 in Mana's favor.
And I don't agree with DarKFoRcE here building 10 plus corruptors. I'm not sure what he's thinking about here because he's only on lair. He cannot go into Broodlords and he has no standing ground army whatsoever. He only saw 1 or 2 Colossus and a couple Void Rays. I really don't know what the idea here behind this is. He may be able to snipe off these units, but then what is he going to do when all these Stalkers come knocking at the front door? And they are here and knocking away. The hatchery is going to go down at the gold. DarKFoRcE now has been subdued to being at the back 4 expansions rather than being at the gold. His creep is starting to get pummeled as well by these Stalkers. And he just doesn't really have much at all. I mean, half of his army supply is these Corruptors, and he has no way to morph them into Broodlords.
What you gonna do when they come for you?
Bad boys.
Sending all the Stalkers in right now. And, oh, those 10 Corruptors are going to be able to take out these 2 Colossus. It looks like probably going to move on to the Void Rays. And DarKFoRcE actually trading really well right now. Going to be able to kill a ton of Stalkers here. He is engaging at the midfield. Wow, great Blink Micro from Mana once again, just like we saw in Game 1. And he is really using Stalkers to their greatest effect. Just so well. I love the blink. I love the mass stalker action, and he's just making it look so easy.
I mean, I love Mana's play. He is so good. He is now engaging on the creep, but I don't even think he cares. He's going to be able to push the Protoss forces back once again. Unfortunately for DarKFoRcE, the Overlords are not filled up. They're just completely empty sacks floating in the air. And DarKFoRcE is going to lose yet another hatchery to Mana's attack. Mana here in complete control of this game off of 3 bases, and this is coming to a point where it's do or die for our Zerg player. DarKFoRcE, he still has a pretty good army and he's been able to hold off, but now he's at 3 base to 3 base and he needs to figure something out because he's conceded all map control to Mana.
Yeah, absolutely. Mana has full map control right now, and he has a gang of Stalkers. He has so many Stalkers right now, just working together, running side by side, raiding the purple countryside, just killing all these creep tumors, and is eventually going to push in for the kill here, is what it looks like. DarKFoRcE actually mustering up a huge army out of nowhere.
Wow. Might
be able to fight this off. He has a ton of Hydras. They are doing very well against those Stalkers. Hydras, you know, one of the better units against Stalkers.
Yep. Absolutely. And these Stalkers here coming down to the bottom south. There's a couple Stalkers there, but we want to see if Mana's going to be able to hold this off. Yes, indeed, he holds off the counterattack, and with that, that's going to force a GG out of DarKFoRcE. Great play by Mana, taking a 2-0 lead over DarKFoRcE. Did you expect that?
No, not at all.
I did not expect that.
So impressive. DarKFoRcE, just one of those outstanding players. He will be forced down into the loser's bracket, but I am so impressed with Mana from both of those games. Was at a huge deficit. He was down 180 to 130 supply in both of those games. Played a super passive, defensive PvZ style, which is definitely one of the better styles that we see out of Protoss players. They sit back, they absorb a lot of the Zerg attacks, kind of like a sponge, I guess, whatever. They absorb a lot of the Zerg attacks, and he was able to equalize the supplies after holding off drop after drop and several counterattacks to his third.
Yeah, I feel like the turning point in all these games really was when DarKFoRcE attempted to do the Gosu double drop and double side attacks and everything, but it just didn't really work out for him. I mean, he tried, but every single time he lost his entire army, and that's where the Protoss Mana was able to, become the Hulk and just overrun him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Well, Mana taking that series 2-0, so congratulations to him. He will be moving on, and as we said earlier, DarKFoRcE heading down into the losers bracket. So if you guys enjoyed those games, make sure to check out more IPL content at www.ign.com/IPL. Also, check out our social media links in the bottom left-hand corner. And if you guys need the hot links, be sure and go to Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and justintv.com/IGN Pro League. Make sure to subscribe as well. We truly appreciate it. And if you guys like those casts, you can find me at www.twitter.com/PainUser and youtube.com/StrapBunker.
And you guys can find me at youtube.com/HDStarcraft. Thank you all for tuning in. This is HD and PainUser signing out.